order. This is a Plan Commission meeting of Tuesday, April 14, 2015. Roll call.
Dickman here.
Johnston here.
Grillo here.
Gavich here.
Speedy here.
Guzikowski here.
Corral here.
Seifert here.
Chandler here.
Item 2 is minutes of the March 24, 2015 meeting.
Dickman makes a motion that we approve the minutes of the Tuesday, March 24th, 2015 meeting.
Seifert seconds.
Roll call.
Dickman, aye.
Johnston, aye.
Grillo, aye.
Gavich abstains.
Speedy, aye.
Guzikowski, aye.
Corral aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Item 3 is significant common council actions. Carry.
Oops, are you
Council approved an ordinance to rezone a portion of the property located at 9770 South 20th Street from I-1 institutional to M1 PUD manufacturing plan unit development. Also an ordinance for a conditional use permit for the property at 150 West Pond Square Way for a restaurant with drive-through facility, which incorporated conditions and restrictions, and also approved a resolution authorizing the dissolution of TIF number 9. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. Item under 4A, conditions and restrictions. It's a review of those conditions and restrictions for a skilled nursing facility submitted by Joe Tikotsky. Villa Healthcare on the property is at 8380, 8400, 8432 South 27th Street. Tax key numbers as listed. Carrie?
As the Plan Commission will recall, at the March 24th meeting, you recommended approval of a conditional use permit for a skilled nursing facility on portions of the property that are highlighted in red on the screen. CSM, site building, landscaping, signage, and related reviews will come at a later date. So this meeting is to look at the conditions and restrictions. There is an updated copy that has been provided to you all today. There was a section missing on landscaping. So if you'll turn to page 2 of 7, the highlighted sections should be H, which just says that the plan shall be in conformance with the Department of Health requirements, and that's for licensure. Parking and access under 3A. This states the minimum number of stalls. This is where I would like the Plan Commission to make a decision on which section of code they would like to apply. Either the minimum of 122 parking stalls or the minimum as in accordance with section for institutional and related uses, which is what has been proposed. Then on page 3 of 7, section I at the top, this just states that adjustments may be made to the parking by the Plan Commission in accordance with code. That's just a clarification. Section 5 is the landscaping section, which was missing from the previous conditions and restrictions. Subsection L on page 4 of 7, again, restates the Plan Commission's authority to waive or modify the standards by a 3/4 majority, and that has to do with landscaping. Page 5 of 7, again, another 3/4 majority clarification under architectural standards. Under 7, building and parking setbacks, these are just stating what they are for the district. And under 10 on page 6 of 7, a permitted use for one skilled nursing facility in addition to all the permitted uses in the RM1 multifamily residential zoning district. The recommendation is that the Plan Commission recommends that the Common Council adopts the conditions and restrictions as part of the conditional use permit, allowing a skilled nursing facility on the portions of the properties at 8380 South 27th Street, 8400 South 27th Street, and 8432 South 27th Street after a public hearing. Mr. Mayor.
Okay, item for discussion is 4A. Open it up to the commission for comments or questions. Alderman, Commissioner Seifert.
Yeah, I had a question about the neighbors. They had a concern, and were those concerns taken into consideration?
Which specific concern?
They were talking about a buffer or something to separate
they got
the
a berm.
facility from
Backyards from the,
backyards.
yes?
Well, we don't have site plans at this point, but landscaping plans as part of the site plan review will be required, and that will be required to show a buffer.
Okay.
What is that buffer,
That's what
if you know?
Not off the top of my head.
All right, Commissioner Corral.
Just to the parking issue, I recall our conversation. The second option, which is proposed, do we have a number tied to that at all?
Yes, it was 90 or, I think it was 90 or 95. I can't recall exactly what the number is, but it's less than.
The lesser of the two options.
Right.
Thank you.
You can come up if you have a question. Just any audience member, name and address for the record.
Teresa Kasperzak, 8437 South Cortland, my backyard.
our assessment went down 18,000, another 7,400. What I'm wondering is what's that going to do to my property value now if you're going to put a parking lot in my backyard? Why is it necessary to have two parking lots? Would you please take that employee parking lot and add it to the one on 27th Street so we don't have to have a parking lot that's going to join my backyard and lights on all night? That would, the one-story building, fine. All of the rest of it, fine. I'm sure it would be landscaped beautifully. But who wants to have a parking lot in their backyard? What do you think that's going to do to the property value, and who's going to want to buy? That's going to be lit up all night.
Okay. Can I'm going to refer it over to Pete and or Carrie. Talk about the buffer between what she's calling her backyard and the reasoning behind why the parking lot is where it is, the one that she's
Yeah, why do
referring
we need two parking lots? Why not add those spaces to 27th Street?
What I think would be prudent here is if the applicant could provide a little bit more clarification on why the design was the way it was.
Sounds good. Come on up.
Good afternoon. My name is Amy Schoeneman, and I'm representing Villa Healthcare here. Address is PDC Midwest, 1130 James Drive, Heartland, Wisconsin. To address the parking concerns, there is this question, first of all, of do we go with the 96 stalls in an institutional use, or would we be subject to the residential requirements of 122 stalls? We would propose that we go with the 96 stalls, not the 30 additional stalls. We feel that those do meet the needs of our client, because again, the residents in this facility do not drive. They are there for either rehabilitation or they're there for long-term use. So the decision to split the parking is based on providing visitor parking and people who are interested in touring the facility. That is designated to the front, any visitors that come for social events or gatherings, whereas the staff parking is typically positioned around the back where you have your staff lounge and other break areas, deliveries and such, that it's a better concentrated use for staff functioning in the rear.
So you would prefer the lower number?
Yes.
Ultimately, we'll hear from the commission on what they think is the right call on that. But so in your mind, the back or the east parking lot
Yep.
would be employee parking, would be less traffic than the more heavily traveled one in the front.
Right. There are primarily 3 shifts that occur with the staffing, and so the front will remain more busy and active as visitors come and go throughout the day, and then staff parking would just be primarily changed out at 3 shifts.
And how many staff would you anticipate would be working each shift?
The maximum shift would be during the day, from your 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. slot. That would, at a max, would be 50 stalls. And so the evening shifts would be greatly reduced, and I don't have those figures, but it would probably be in half, if not less.
Okay. Alderman Bekavich?
Looking at your layout, you said there'd be 50 stalls to the far east side, which is the Cortland side?
Well, there would be, I don't know about 50 stalls, but there would be 50 parking at max shift.
So you need at least 50 stalls.
There is one unit on the northwest corner. There would be some staff parked at this very specific wing to the nursing home. There's some parking stalls that kind of curve around with 2 handicap stalls. It says hospice entry. Those would park at that entrance point.
Okay.
Can you put that up on the board, Carrie, or no?
Yeah, can you get the drawing of the layout, Carrie? The detention pond. Seeing as my eyes aren't that great, can you tell me what the buffer is from, say, the back lot of Cortland to the west edge of the detention pond, somewhere in there? And would it be possible, I know we don't have landscape plans, but I don't even know if we could get a berm in there. We got wetlands in there. This could be a tough screen job, actually.
Well, we find no exceptions that we would need to address with the current landscaping requirements that you have initiated in the conditions and restrictions. We're perfectly fine with putting in the buffers that are mentioned in the current code. There is currently at the back east property line that abuts the residential houses, there is a 50-foot easement, and that's about where it hits the east end of the detention pond, so we've got 50 feet there. Then you have another 60 feet plus till you hit the edge of our parking.
About
So 110.
10 feet.
And again, this is very preliminary. We haven't officially designed the storm detention basins. We know that they would be appropriately sized, but they're not, we know that this parcel is large enough with the storm detention, but it hasn't been fully addressed with landscaping yet.
Okay. I guess my feeling is, given the neighbors' concerns, they've been looking out over a field which has been dumped in for the last number of years there. I would like to see a berm of some sort up that way to really define that. We are really going from a residential area into an institutional area. First and foremost, we got to take care of the stormwater. That comes first. But I'd really like to see some planning going into protecting those people with a berm of some sort. I mean, you're going to enter off of Honadel, so it's going to be a little bit of traffic there. It's a couple hundred feet away, but you really look at that, it looks much larger on paper than when you're actually there. If you go there, that stretch from 27th to, I believe it's Cortland at the T-stop, it's not that far a stretch. If that's a block and a half, maybe 2 blocks max, you're lucky. So that's a good-sized development. I'm glad to see it in there. But again, I think we really have to be sensitive to the neighbors going forward on this one. It's one of the better-kept subdivisions in my district, I feel. Neighbors really take a lot of effort into their properties up that way, and I really want to work with the residents on this one to make sure we get this one right. So that's it for now. Thank you.
Okay.
Brian, I'm going to jump to you. Where on this site plan, where would you see, he suggested a berm, where would you see that as possible, if it is possible?
The only place that we really have a little bit of room is back here, and there's not much to get in through there. I was wondering if there's a possibility to flip the parking so that they're facing the building
Yeah,
rather than outside,
that's what I was thinking.
and then all the headlights aren't shining into the houses, they're shining into the building when they,
So here,
yeah, if they put the parking over on this side and then have the street run on the back side. I don't know what that does with your operations that you have
Right.
back here.
Yeah, it would almost actually take the parking where right now it's quite long and concentrated, but looks out more over the field, and we would have to, again, for where we have those drop-offs and delivery where it's just pavement, we'd almost have to take our single parking and split it and actually angle it more toward the houses to still keep our quantity.
could you take off this section and move that over here, or, you know what I'm saying? Because this is the backyards, right?
Yep, yes.
Okay, so these are the parking lots. I think they're going to be directly impacted for impact the rest of them. Slide them, relocate a few of them, so that this section here is not, there's no effect on those neighbors.
Is that second pond?
Or what about going to the north end of the building?
Well, are those storm ponds too?
Man,
Yeah.
Yeah.
holy cow.
Is this showing the lower number of parking spaces? I'm assuming.
That is showing the lower number. Yeah, I mean, we'd like to keep them in the back because, again, that's where staff will enter the building.
Yeah, I get the idea of keeping staff isolated.
Right,
from
but
the-
you're also going to have deliveries to the back also, correct? You're
Yes.
going to need food, linens, things of that nature?
I think
Yeah,
there's
and those
something
will
we can
face
do
into
here.
the building.
I think we could get these moved up.
Okay.
I don't know, the stormwater aspects of doing that are more complicated.
15 spots.
I defer to you.
Without seeing some sort of plan. I mean, this is just a preliminary
This is preliminary.
layout of it. When we get into it and see what we need for the stormwater, it might change those ponds a little bit as well, so.
Yeah, so I mean, that's, just hearing what I'm hearing, and I've got 4 other people that waiting to pop in. So, I mean, think about that impact, direct impact on the neighbors where they don't want to see the headlights, they don't want to look at cars necessarily. They know there's something out there, but the more distance you can put between their backyard, their houses, their backyards, the stormwater stuff, and the building, it would be good, at least on that one area right here.
Sure.
Okay?
Okay.
All right, Alderman Guzekowski.
My questions actually have been answered. Thank you.
Commissioner Dickman.
Okay, I kind of agreed with Brian. I was hoping that somehow you could do the parking so that the headlights face the building. You know, and I did like the idea of maybe trying to put the road, you know, behind it, behind the parking. I don't know if you can do that. And I also want to address the berm. Do our conditions and restrictions require that they put some plantings on top of the berm so the height looks higher? Because I think, Brian, you said last time the berm was about 3 foot. Am I right? Or,
We can't go that.
Well, depending on what they can squeeze back in.
yeah, it depends on the angle.
There's nothing
I
in
think-
conditions and restrictions that say that the berm has to be planted specifically, but that would be part of the landscape plan, that would be part of
Okay.
your approval at site plan review.
Okay. And then also, I believe the one neighbor mentioned that there would be lights on the parking area all night. What's the situation there?
We haven't chosen any lighting yet. It would certainly be, I can't think of the term, but reflective that it's only on our property. Again, it would come nowhere near, it would be casting over the parking itself and not anywhere onto the green space or anywhere near.
They do have cutoff
Yeah.
restrictions.
Cutoff, thank you.
That's,
okay.
That's open to the electrical inspector for his design, and they would actually face west, and the cutoffs would be to the east. So the spillover would probably not be greatly like it'd be shining on them. Still be able to see them, without a doubt. If you're sitting in your living room, you're going to see them.
If I could also add back to the parking, if we were to flip it to the opposite side, it's at that point then actually facing directly into the views of what would be sleeping units of these residents. So then within 10 feet of the resident window instead of 200 feet from the current neighbors, so.
How much room, what is this strip here, Carrie? You mentioned what that distance, that small strip of, before you get to the ponds?
There's a 25-foot easement, and then there's a 50-foot setback from this property line here.
Right.
So this is 50 feet, about right here.
So there'd be nothing preventing them from putting a natural barrier of evergreen plantings that are, significant at time of planting, 6 feet, that, spaced properly can grow up to totally screen whatever happens on the other side there. That might be something you think about. Commissioner Crowell.
Well, I think we already are heading that direction, but there's roughly 15 spots on that south that we need to find. I mean, there's as much detention space as I've seen at anything we've looked at. I mean, there's just, for some reason, I think when this comes back, that's going to possibly be smaller, which would allow us to move that to the north, kind of where the residential curves out to open space. I think versus flipping it, which doesn't seem like it works. I think we have to work on getting that down to that end, kind of starting from roughly spot 15 there.
Okay.
I think that allows for more of a natural space to the residential, the evergreens on top of it.
Yeah, I mean, with those changes, if you could slide those up or move them somewhere, you got a beautiful stormwater area that, be a wildlife probably for birds and stuff. Then you have a nice natural green barrier. That's actually an enhancement to, what is typically just wetlands. So I think that could be something that works. Mr. Johnston.
If we can switch over to landscaping for a second. Development agreement for the Chateau Apartments, which are on the south side of Honadel. The landscaper boulevards are supposed to be maintained with the shared maintenance when this gets developed. So you can't see them on this
Yeah.
picture, but the islands
There's,
out here.
looks some cherry trees or something in
Yeah.
there, crab apples.
Yeah. Would you guys be willing to take over the maintenance of those islands through there, and we'd add that to the conditions and restrictions?
I can't speak to that on behalf of my client. I don't want to agree for them on that.
Would you consider it?
I would consider it.
Would you present it to your client?
I would absolutely present it to my client.
That's what you're asking, Brian, right?
Yeah, there's a shared responsibility anyway.
Okay.
Would you be willing to take that over completely, and can we add that in here if we can get that answer
Before it goes to Comic-Con, so.
Okay. I will bring that up to them.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Bekavich?
This is a single-story structure. It is. I guess I want to defer to the fire department also, because it looks to me like, I don't know if they'll go in through the front, the back. I see an ambulance thing on the back side there. Mike, can you shed some light into this as to number of runs, things of that we're looking at too? I know you don't know, it's a different facility, but give me the averages.
First, in terms of access to the facility, we've worked with this facility several times already, and they've been very receptive to our requests for access and layout of the structure, egress paths, and evacuation point and collection points for patients in case there was an emergency there. So from an access perspective, we're very happy with what the designers have provided us. As far as call volume, I believe at a past meeting, we estimate that it's roughly 1 call per bed in these types of facilities. Now, this is a rather unique facility for the city of Oak Creek, so I'm not able to give you an accurate number yet. This is really a first of its kind in our city for the truly skilled nursing type facilities. So the true impact on call volume is yet to be determined. But certainly we could use somewhere between 0.5 to 1 call per bed per year as a starting point on the discussion.
Okay. I'm sorry, could you just kind of educate me a little bit? What's the difference between a skill, I would hope all nurses are skilled, but what's the difference between a skilled nursing facility and, as I just drive home, I guess, for lack of a better word, I'll call it a nursing home?
It is a nursing home.
Okay.
So in senior living terms, it ranges anywhere from independent living apartments all the way up to assisted living or independent living, assisted living, and final skilled care nursing. It's just based on the level of care and how much daily assistance these residents are obtaining. So for a skilled nursing facility, there are staff supervising the residents 24/7 with reduced shift numbers at night. But skilled nursing requires the greatest amount of care in a senior living spectrum. So it is a nursing home.
Okay, but then by the same token, there's kind of independent living kind of going on too?
This will not have independent living.
It's
Nope.
all going to be,
It will all be skilled nursing.
okay, so it's a nursing home.
Okay. Other questions or comments? I see none. Need a motion on 4A.
Going forward, is there anything else from the public, Steve?
If you have a comment, you can come up and express it.
I just have one more comment too.
Sure.
It would be, we gave our thoughts on 96 stalls would be fine for the development. I also have just some questions on the architectural portion, and I believe I have an earlier version, but it would be the facade of a manufacturing, commercial, office, or institutional building shall be finished with an aesthetically pleasing material. Minimum of 75% of the perimeter shall be finished with glass, brick, or decorative masonry material. That's quite a high percentage that I've seen coming from other cities. We hadn't intended that as we've gone through our preliminary budgeting as a starting point, but we've mimicked the residential character of the homes in the back and the apartment buildings directly to the south. At most, they look like they have about 20% masonry, and so we've sort of matched that aesthetic, again, one-story residential, but nothing coming close to 75%.
Carrie, why don't you speak to that?
The 75% of the visible perimeter is as you see it from the road. So it'd be along 27th Street and also along Hanadel potentially. But there is also a subsection E that says the Plan Commission may modify that by 3/4 majority vote. Since we're not actually looking at architectural plans here, that means that when we look at those architectural plans, the Plan Commission would have the authority at that point to, as a 3/4 majority, make any changes
Okay.
to that standard.
But we note your concerns on that.
Okay.
And if I got what you said, it's
Yep.
more the west elevation than,
It'll be the west and a little bit of the south.
okay.
Okay.
So think about that in terms of what your number is.
Right, okay.
Alderman Bekavich?
Just one last question, and maybe you can fill me in on this. Does this fit the 27th Street plan? Is that still in effect, and what's going forward?
Well, I mean, 27th Street has evolved from what it was first proposed, I don't know how many years ago. There's going to be changes, just like, and I always hate to bring up Drexel Town Square when I talk about changes, but things evolve. The market decides a lot of these questions. The one thing that I think we need to pay attention to is the needs of an aging population. This addresses that need. We can't ignore those folks.
No,
Certainly are getting older. We're a larger city
No,
now.
I'm not talking the use. I'm talking, I thought we had a resolution that buildings were gonna have a certain look.
Doug addressed that at the
Quality.
last, when this came up. I thought that the answer was it did fit that.
It did? Well,
That,
I guess,
the southern edge of what you're talking about.
yeah,
Well,
I
and
guess
again, we
let's-
don't have architectural plans to look at this
Right.
point.
But wasn't
Yes,
Doug
you're-
Seymour's answer
you're
that
correct.
it does fit?
Yes.
Does fit.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
There's different areas, different uses as you move south along 27th Street. I think was Doug's point. Anything else?
Yeah, it's actually, yeah.
Motion on 4A.
Before you make a motion, can
Go
you
ahead.
have the plan commission determine
Oh,
the parking on section 3A, page 2 of 7?
The number of
As part of
spots?
the
There's
motion.
an either/or in here.
As
Yeah.
part of the motion.
yeah, can we make that part of the motion?
Yeah, I sense a consensus, but I'll let the motion,
Okay.
still need a motion.
Oh.
Come on up. You don't have to give your name and address again.
Okay. I have to say, all 7 of us have been there 14 years. It's really wonderful. We're in condo association only with our partner. It's like a side-by-side. Love it. And I want to tell you that my sunroom, which is my family room, my living room, and my master bedroom will be in those headlights. Please remember that.
We're sensitive to that. We're going to do everything we can to shield you from that. All right, motion on 4A, please.
Dickman will make a motion, the Plan Commission recommends that the Common Council adopts the conditions and restrictions with the condition that 92 parking spots is adequate. And this would allow a skilled nursing facility on portions of the properties at 8380 South 27th Street, 8400 South 27th Street, 8432 South 27th Street after a public hearing.
Can I just clarify that
Go right ahead.
Section
3A will say parking requirements for this project shall be provided in accordance with section 1403 of the municipal code. The minimum number of parking stalls will be in subsection J6F for institutional and related uses.
That sounds good.
Did I get a second?
Seifert seconds.
Roll call.
Dickman, aye.
Johnston, aye.
Corello, I.
Gavich, aye.
Screeney, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Crawl, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, I.
To the residents, stay focused on this issue. We want to make sure that it works for both parties, so keep in touch. Developers will work with us when we ask them to do specific things, so encourage us to do that. All right, moving on to 4B. It's a site building and landscape plan review submitted by Thomas Kennard for a proposed clothing alteration store with owner residential quarters and detached garage on the property at 9867 South Chicago Road, tax key number as listed. Carrie.
This request is for site building, landscaping, and lighting plan approval for the mixed-use building, which is at the location that is in red on your screen. This gives you an idea of the proposal, which is a two-tenant, or a mixed-use building, which is, my pointer works. Right here, there we go. It'll be split right down the middle, so the business portion will be on the east side and the residence will be on the west side. Includes parking along the east and a private garage with dumpster location over here on the west. And to give you an idea of what the building will actually look like, this is a floor plan showing again that the business portion is on the east side and residence with a full basement on the west. It is a single-story building with the exception of the basement. So it's about 2,000 square feet. This is giving you an idea of what the building will look like. Just lost my place, sorry. There we go. Fiber cement siding on all elevations. There is going to be an entrance enhanced with veneer stone pilasters and sconces. So if we're looking at the entrance to the business portion, it'll be right here. Again, siding on this, on all elevations, and then this is going to be architectural shingles. Residential quarters for an owner of a building and business not exceeding the floor area for a business and within the same building is permitted as an accessory use in the district. There is one error. B4 is actually the highway business district, not the local business district, as was stated on the plans. There will be an 864 square foot detached garage, again for private use, that will not be counted as part of the parking for the business. Sheet A5.1 actually does not show the correct scale of the garage, which is depicted on the screen before you. That needs to be changed, and the reason it needs to be changed is because at the current scale, it scales to above what is allowed for the maximum height of an accessory structure. There is going to be a trash enclosure that'll be on the west side of the garage. Those details are coming up on the screen below here. And that trash enclosure on the concrete pad will actually be made of, or constructed of, I think it's cedar panels. What you'll notice is that there is a gate on the south end and then a gap right here. It'll be up to the Plan Commission to determine whether or not that gap should also require a gate or if you're okay with it just being open like that. Parking as proposed meets the, or exceeds the minimum required. All structures are going to meet the setbacks in the proposed plan. And landscaping has been provided on all sides. However, it should be enhanced in a few places. There's a requirement for a minimum of 3 ornamental deciduous trees and 5 shrubs for 35 linear feet of perimeter parking area, which means that there would be 1 more tree and 3 more shrubs that would be needed along this side. But we would also like to see landscaping continued around this north corner here and also along the south here so that it doesn't just stop and it provides a little bit more of a landscape buffer to the residences. And now we'll get a look at the renderings of the building. So this is the southern elevation. This is looking toward the entrance of the business portion. Again, if I zoom in, you'll be able to see a little bit more of the detail on the entrance, making it more visible that this is where people want to go. There's going to be a sconce on each side of these pillars and then a door here. Signage is not a problem. It's actually not, it'll actually just be a permit, so it's not anything that the Plan Commission needs to issue a decision on unless you say that there's something that is of issue. And just another angle of the business side. Plan Commissioners may recall that there are billboards that were on this property. There was a letter that was issued by Clear Channel saying that they would remove them by April 1st. Staff has included a condition of approval saying that there should be a letter confirming that those billboards have been removed. Primary lighting plans have been reviewed by the electrical inspector. However, final plans will also need to be reviewed prior to the issuance of building permits just to confirm that everything matches. There have been some comments received from the water and sewer utility regarding water service where it exists on the north side of the property and some other requirements, and staff recommends that the applicant coordinate these requirements closely with the utility. The recommendation is that the Plan Commission approves the site and building plans submitted by Thomas Kennard for the property at 9867 South Chicago Road, subject to conditions 1 through 7. Mr. Mayor.
All right, I'm super excited about this. I think it's awesome that we're going to see a small business on the east side of the city on Highway 32, along Highway 32. It actually echoes some of what we see in the marketplace where the homeowner actually has their business in the same location. I think it's a great use of that space. If it gets the ugly billboards down, and I understand from the residents they're not down yet. Is that what, they're not down?
No, it started today.
Okay. So, I mean, that's going to be, I think, an improvement along there. I just think it's a great opportunity for a small business to thrive. I think there's going to be a big market for it. So I'm excited about it. Commissioner Correll.
I agree, Mayor, with all your points. My question would be the amount of parking. it exceeds what's required? Is that by what they're looking for? Is it more than we need, would be my question,
It's
based on
more
the
than
use?
what's required by code.
More than required, I guess that's my only comment. It looks like a lot of parking for that type of use. Obviously, they know their business more than we would, but how many employees would be on at any time?
If the applicant could come up, just to answer a couple quick questions. And just for the record, name and address.
Tom Kennard, 2921 5 Mile Road, Caledonia.
The number of parking spots, is that something that you're locked in on, or you think you need those spots?
Well, I believe there was a 12 car minimum. Is that true?
I think it's actually less than that, Tom.
Okay.
How many employees would be working at any time and taking those spots?
Probably 2.
And that was just my assumption. It just seems like a lot of, and from
Well-
a residential area.
One of the reasons we made it wider was because we couldn't get access from Highway 32. We wanted to run a loop for deliveries, like UPS or FedEx. So we need that lot to be a little wider so they can turn around
So
in
it's
there.
there anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, if you need the space, you need the space, especially for that reason. We're just trying to think about ways,
Actually, I'm sorry.
just ways you could minimize the amount of asphalt that's out there. But, I mean, if you need the space, you need it.
Actually, I would have liked it a little bit less so that the building could be closer to the road so it'd be easier to see, but we do need room for like a UPS type truck to turn around in there.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Dickman?
I'd like to ask a question. First of all, I think it's a good idea, let me tell you that. But the first floor is divided between the business and residential. I noticed that there is a downstairs in the residential heading to the basement. Is that going to be a full basement under both units?
No,
Okay,
a full basement under the residential part.
Okay, because I was going to ask if the tailoring area would use it, but you're not going to use it.
No.
strictly for them. Okay,
No.
thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions? Commissioner Chandler?
I do have a question about the limit, the 17-foot limit. Can you provide more information? Because to my understanding, the drawing on A51 is at 30 feet, but it should be 17.
Right. It's,
That's correct. To the peak of the accessory building, the peak of the roof should be no more than 17 feet. It's just a scaling error.
right.
Okay.
Does that satisfy your question?
Yes.
Okay. Alderman Bekavich?
I guess I need to be educated again. This is really unique. I like the idea of it with the split between the residential and business. With the dumpster enclosure, because they're a business, I would take it, they have private trash pickup, but as a resident, are they entitled to a recycle and a standalone can like everybody else also? How are they treated? And then I guess also, from a perspective of business, are there separate services going in there for the business and the residents? And also, if they're a business, do they fall under any specific fire code for sprinklers, what have you?
Well, trash would be private. The fire department can answer the code requirements.
I did speak with the applicant earlier on about his structure, and we did end up sending this into plan review. The applicant and I have had discussions regarding the structure, and we'll follow up with those discussions on any requirements for this building.
Okay. What was the other one that we were trying to find?
I had a whole lot of them.
Oh, the separate so you had asked for separate meters? Is that what you were asking about?
Oh, yeah, just, how they're gonna, do they split the electrical? I mean, I can always ask the electrical inspector on the side. I'm just kind of curious because you're gonna be metered business and
Right.
what have you.
Right.
It's almost like you have two separate structures in one. I don't know how they do it in the marketplace.
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have a response for that.
Right.
It would be a different department.
Okay, not really applicable here, but wish you luck though. It looks neat.
Commissioner Chandler again?
Could you provide more information about the gap with the gates?
Okay, so what we're showing here, this is actually just a gap on the west side. So you'll see here's the schematic of the aerial. So the gate is right here, and then there's wood slats on all sides here, and then there's just a gap here.
For the applicant, what's the reason for the gap?
Actually, I hadn't even noticed that, but I think the architect, probably put that there just to make it easy for us to take bags of trash in there without opening the gates.
Okay, you might maybe think about putting a transitional small gate so that it looks like the rest of the siding, but closes it off so people aren't getting in there, or
Yeah,
other
that's
than you
okay.
guys.
That's okay.
That'd be my suggestion. Did that, you good?
I have one more.
Okay, go ahead.
And I noticed that there is a future expansion identified here. I didn't see any verbiage about that in our packet. So can you provide us more information about the future expansion?
Right. We haven't given that a lot of thought, but we did position the building to the south so that if we ever considered that, we'd have space to do it. What she's getting into with her business may expand, or we may find that as an investment, we might want to expand it to lease to another business at some point.
So is there anything that we have to approve for this future expansion? Okay.
What you're approving is the proposal. A future expansion is just that. It could or could not materialize.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Johnson?
Tom, do you think you're going to have a dumpster out there, or are you just going to have carts? My concern would be the garbage trucks actually coming up there
Well,
and picking up.
when I talked to Scott, the architect, I told him to make it accessible to a truck. As a practical matter, we don't need a dumpster. Her business might create one trash bag a week, just like pieces of materials and things. There's no paper, there's nothing consumed there. So it's really gonna be minimal. The only way we'd have a dumpster is if it was required, so.
You just might want to consider putting a concrete pad in front of that dumpster for that truck.
Oh, yeah, that's
garbage
right.
truck to come up there.
Yeah.
And then you have to work with them on how they're going to get in here, pick up, and turn around and not tear up your whole driveway
Right, right,
to get back out.
Or
Right.
can we back up?
Yeah.
I don't know.
okay, thank you.
Any other, Commissioner Chandler?
And with the removal of the billboard signs, can you provide us some information about that, the status of that?
Actually, I drove by today and they had started, so they're on their way down.
Good.
And,
Excellent.
yeah,
Thank you.
okay.
Any other questions? Motion on 4B.
Corral moves that the commission approves the site and building plan submitted by Thomas Kennard for the property at 9867 South Chicago Road with the following conditions. One, that all technical corrections, zoning district, scale, et cetera, are made to the plans and resubmitted to the Department of Community Development for review and approval prior to the issuance of building permits. Two, that all building and fire codes are met. Three, that a letter confirming the removal of the billboards on the property is submitted to the Department of Community Development prior to the issuance of building permits. Four, that stormwater and grading plans are submitted for final approval by the engineering department prior to issuance of building permits. Five, that updated landscaping plans are submitted for review and approval by the Director of Community Development prior to the issuance of building permits. Six, that final lighting plans, including luminaire details, pole lights, height, and color, are submitted to the Department of Community Development for final approval upon written recommendation of the electrical inspector prior to the issuance of building permits. And seven, that all water and sewer utility connections are coordinated with the Oak Creek Water and Sewer Utility.
Can I interrupt here for just a second and ask if there are any other conditions that the Plan Commission wanted to add on in terms of the gate or in terms of the concrete pad for the dumpster?
I would ask the applicant to close off that gap, put a little utility gate that matches the siding that cedar siding you're putting on the rest of the structure, just so it's completely enclosed.
The pad's really up to the, depends what they find out. I would just add 8 that an additional gate closes the gap.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Come on up.
There was one other item, I don't know if, that was concerning the fiber cement siding. Did I need the 75% approval for that?
That's on the vote.
Yeah, I sense that the commission is thumbs up, but we'll see.
Oh, okay,
I think you're fine.
okay.
All right, do we have that motion?
Motion's done.
All right, we need a second.
Chandler, second.
Chandler seconds, roll call.
Dickman, aye.
Johnson, aye.
Grillo, aye.
David Chai.
VDI,
Guzekowski, aye.
Corral, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
move forward. Awesome. All right, 4C is a plan review for site plan submitted by Gerald Ritchie, Nucor Cold Finish, Wisconsin, Inc., for a proposed expansion to the west parking lot on the property at 400 West Burkhardt Court. Tax key number as listed. Carrie.
The request is for site plan approval for a proposed expansion of the existing parking lot on the area that is shaded in red, although it's actually only a portion of that. This is the proposed plan, and if I zoom in a little bit more, what you'll see here is the West Teammate parking lot. This is the area that will be expanded. And this is the proposal for the expansion. So what is in dark is what is proposed to be removed and replaced. And you can't really see it very well on this, but the hatched areas that are around it are what is proposed for the expansion. Although the proposal meets the setback requirements, the submitted plans show the removal of all vegetation within the parking lot and adjacent to the building. However, I did discuss this with the applicant's consultant. They indicated that their preference is to remove the vegetation, but it's not necessary for the project. The proposal was to return that disturbed area to lawn. However, the code requires that new and expanded parking areas include accessory landscape areas, and there was actually an approved landscape plan by the Plan Commission on February 22nd, 2000 that included landscaping. So staff recommends maintaining the existing vegetation and enhancing where possible to meet landscaping requirements per code. The staff recommendation on the overall project is that the Plan Commission approves the site plan submitted by Gerald Ritchie, Nucor Cold Finish, Wisconsin, Inc., for the property at 400 West Burkhardt Court, subject to conditions 1 and 2. Mr. Mayor.
Applicant is here. Questions? Commissioner Dickman.
I don't know if the applicant is, I think the applicant's here. Do you mind stepping forward?
Good evening. My name's Jerry Ritchie. I represent Nucor, 7200 South 6th Street.
Okay, my question was, I mean, this is a pretty big expansion, that area. Is it for employees? Is it for people coming there to see your product? Or are you expanding inside?
It's strictly for our teammates. And what's the reason for the need is it needs to be wider. That parking lot's just not wide enough. It's a safety issue. Really, two reasons. To the east there, where the handicapped spots are, we have a severe drainage problem there. And every winter into spring, when you have the cold nights and warm days, that becomes an ice rink for us. Okay. So what really drove the project was the need to do something with drainage. Elevation's really a mess on this site.
Okay.
The other thing is the current parking, the cars are just too close.
Yes.
When our teammates walk down the middle, going to work, especially in the evenings or at night, you know, there's a little bit concerned with the room for them to move. It's compounded by our snow. You know, you try to plow the snow away, but that sometimes squeezes it down a little bit more. So we're just making a little bit wider. We're really not doing anything with more spaces or anything like that.
I did notice there's an employee area outside with the tables where
Yes.
you can go out. Is that going to stay or is
Absolutely.
Okay.
That will butt up against. We're adding a few reserved motorcycle spots. They're right against that. But the new concrete will go right up against that area, which is all the way to the east of the drawing there.
Okay.
Commissioner Chandler.
I just have a question about removing the vegetation.
Yes.
What was the reasoning for wanting to remove that?
Currently, all the rainwater from that building's roof just drains out. And what we're doing is putting an underground drainage system in. So we have to sort of dig up some of it to get that pipe in for the downspouts to go into it. And then from maintenance standpoints, we felt that just a nice lawn where grass cutting's a lot easier to maintain. But we have absolutely no problem keeping what we have, or if need be, even enhancing it. It will look better than it looks today when it's done. Whatever we need to do.
So is that acceptable to have? Absolutely. Oh, okay. Thank you.
Is that part of number 2 there, landscaping plans that will cover that?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
We'll do whatever we need to do.
Okay.
Just to maintain it as much as possible, what you
Yep.
have. If you can enhance it, great. If you can just maybe relocate some of the stuff just to keep it on there, that'd be great.
That's what we'll do. And I looked at it today, and what the landscaping we're talking about basically is 5 or 6 greens of some type that are sort of bunched together. what I would propose we would do is spread them out, make it look better, so we don't have 3 and then an open spot and then another one here and another, just make it a little bit more
Yeah.
symmetrical.
Perfect, we'll work with you and just submit a landscape plan to us.
we'll take care of it.
Fine with that.
And if we can't save them, we'll replace.
Thank you.
Commissioner Siebert?
Yeah, Jerry, are you going to tear up the whole parking lot? And
Yes.
And then redo it?
Yeah, we're replacing asphalt with concrete.
Or you're going to?
And, you know, our trucks are 50,000 pounds of steel, especially to the west side where we unload our steel inside the building. Historically, that just becomes a problem trying to maintain the asphalt. And since we're replacing that part with concrete, we felt for snow removal and long-term maintenance, we're replacing a lot of our asphalt over the years with concrete. It just holds up better.
Are you going to relocate your lighting on the south side of that parking lot?
No, if you look there, they're still there. The parking will come up into them, sort of, so that will stay.
They will
The
stay?
existing lights will stay.
Okay.
Commissioner Chandler?
What I heard you say is that you're going to include or create a drainage system.
Yes.
So are there any issues with engineering having a separate system that will be installed on the property?
This would be a private system, be with inspection, and we've been working with them for some time, so we don't have any issues with it.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Motion 4C.
Corral moves that the commission approves the site plan submitted by Gerald Ritchie, Nucor Cold Finish, Wisconsin, Inc., for the property of 400 West Burkhardt Court with the following conditions. 1, that stormwater and grading plans are submitted for final approval by the engineering department prior to issuance of permits. 2, that updated landscaping plans are submitted for review and approval by the Director of Community Development prior to the issuance of permits.
Seifert seconds.
Roll call.
Dickman, aye.
Johnston, aye.
Grillo, aye.
Gavich, aye.
Scavidi, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Corral, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Good luck. 4D is a plan review for site building and landscaping plan submitted by Dr. Sarah Burmeister, Oak Creek Franklin Joint School District for a proposed elementary school on the property at 2200 West Drexel Avenue. Tax key number is listed. Carrie.
The request is for site building, landscaping, and lighting plan approval. As you'll recall, this property was rezoned to I-1 institutional at the beginning of the year. And this is a site plan that shows what the property will look like once the school is placed on it. I apologize for the quality. We are in the process of getting a little bit cleaner drawings. But what you can see here is an overflow parking lot to the north. This is the main building here with the play area here, and the main parking area on the south with a detention pond. I will note that this building is going to be located about 600 feet from Drexel Avenue. It's a 2-story building. The total square footage is 83,283 feet, but that's on 2 floors. This will include classrooms, a gymnasium, a cafeteria with kitchen, administrative offices, media center, and multi-purpose area. There will be about 525 students in grades 4K through 5th that will be served by the school. As proposed, it will meet all setbacks for the I-1 institutional district. There, you will notice that in the plans it was a little bit difficult to determine, but this area here, which is going to be the main play area, will actually be softscape. It will not be hardscape. The hardscape area will be here in the overflow parking area. It's also, like I said, a hardscape play area. Due to the presence of wetlands, floodway, and floodplain on the property, the building, as I said, will be nearly 600 feet from the Drexel Avenue right-of-way to the south. Wetland impacts must be coordinated with and permitted by the DNR. No impacts to the existing floodway and flood fringe are proposed. It should be noted that the plans show floodplain instead of floodway, which I've been in talks with the consultants about. It will be corrected. There will be 182 parking stalls on the south in this area here. 8 stalls will be on the west, which is right by where the dumpster location is going to be on the opposite end here. I think the kitchen area is about right here. 82 stalls in the combined play area and overflow lot here. This is for when there is a school special event. The main parking area includes a separate lane for drop-offs to the entrance of the school, and interior parking lot landscaping requirements are met. So what will happen, if I understand correctly, is that vehicles will pull in and be able to move around the parking spaces, thus reducing some conflicts with cars. You will notice that there is a stormwater pond that is proposed south of the parking area right here. There is also a 4-foot tall black chain link fence that is proposed to be on the north and east corner, so it'll go roughly from here and around to here. According to code, the authority of determining appropriate opacity and screening of the security fences is up to the Plan Commission, although what I've been told is that there will be some plantings in this area. It's probably not going to be seen from Drexel Avenue, but additional landscaping will go a long way in making sure that what is seen from Drexel Avenue is attractive. So what we have here are some of the isometrics showing the different angles of the building. Can't really see it very well, but this is the northeast, northwest, southwest, and southeast. And I'll blow this up a little bit more, but these are the elevations for the building. So what you'll see on the top is the south. This is what will be seen roughly from Drexel Avenue, right here. And then the north elevation, which will only be seen at this point if you're going on the 20th Street extension, which will be a cul-de-sac. So really the only people who would be seeing that side would be the users of the school at this point. West elevation is again where the dumpster location in the back of house will be. And then the overall east elevation. So this is as you're coming onto the 20th Street extension as you're looking to the left to turn into the property. The building itself is primarily brick in contrasting colors with multiple windows, as you can see on the elevations. Architectural metal and composite wall panels are going to be on the second story. We do have a breakdown here. Brick comprises about 42%, metal wall panel 28.6%, composite wall panel 5.9%, and glass at 23.5%. That's for the overall building. If anybody has any questions about the specific elevations, I have that breakdown as well. You will recall that no more than 25% of the visible perimeter may be constructed with metal wall panels. However, again, the building is going to be about 600 feet from Drexel Avenue. It does apply to Drexel and the proposed 20th Street extension. Staff feels that the proposal meets the requirements of that of the 25% visible perimeter. Landscaping will be integrated with the wetlands on the property, which are shown on the plans, but they have not yet been delineated. You can see that surrounding the property, there are areas where wetland is called out. But again, the landscaping is meant to enhance and coincide with those wetlands, which will not be disturbed. Just to note that all mechanicals must be screened. I think there was one item that was called out on the isometric plan that would be on the west elevation, on the west side of the building. That just needs to be screened either with vegetation or with a different type of screening. I think it will be vegetation, though. Preliminary lighting plans have been reviewed by the electrical inspector. However, final plans will need to be reviewed prior to the issuance of building permits. We have received and provided to the applicant comments from the water and sewer utility, and we recommend that the applicant works closely with the utility to address those comments. The staff recommendation is that the Plan Commission approves the site and building plan submitted by Dr. Sarah Burmeister, Oak Creek Franklin Joint School District, for the property at 2200 West Drexel Avenue, subject to conditions 1 through 8. Mr. Mayor.
Questions on 4D? Commissioner Chandler.
Okay, starting with the dumpster enclosure, where exactly is that? And can you provide us a little more information about the dumpster enclosure?
I have been in contact with the consultants about the dumpster enclosure. The dumpsters are actually going to be located here on the west side. And that enclosure is going to be, I believe, masonry to match the building with wood gate. Oh, I'm sorry. The gates will be steel substructure, if I can speak. Steel substructure with metal wall panel facing in the same color and pattern as on the main building. It'll be about 6 to 8 feet tall for the dumpster enclosure itself, and also 10 feet tall for the transformer or generator, which is also in the same area. So brick masonry veneer to match the building, and then metal panel for the gate to match the building.
And how can the, how's the dumpster access?
So it'll be,
There's a pathway that goes along here.
A walk?
When you come in through the, yep, there you go. You come in, you go past that. Most cars will not be able to go past there. Only the trucks, the delivery trucks, things like that. And so there'll be a concrete pad back there. So that pathway behind the school, and it'll also be used by fire and police for any emergencies. Oh my goodness, it just started dripping on me.
Yeah, you gotta be careful there.
You better talk to your landlord about that.
So do you have to back in? I'm
no, so what you'll do
unclear
is-
of the
Okay.
location and how to access it.
Okay, so here's 20th Street Extension, and I believe that this is a one-way up here,
Right.
and then this will go around this way and up here.
Yep.
Or
So
up.
then you have to back out?
They will be able to, they can turn around in there, or they could continue around and come back out. They can continue up if they wanted to and
I
come
guess
around.
I am unclear of the layout of the dumpster. Is
Dumpster
it left
gates
to
will be-
right?
The dumpster gates will be facing south. So if this is
Oh,
the enclosure,
okay.
the gates are on the south.
Okay. Thank you. Oh, another question. In regards to delivery trucks, where are they going to go exactly? Pickups, drop-offs,
Same place.
where the dumpsters are? That's where they drop off and pick
There'll be a loading dock there.
a loading dock? Okay, thank you.
In staff's opinions, are adequate room for the dumpsters and delivery vehicles?
I believe so.
Okay, Commissioner Dickman?
I wanted to ask about the hard surface play area, which is used for overflow parking. Are there going to be anything there, like on the ends for basketball goals or anything like that, or it's going to strictly be wide open for, so the children can go out there under supervision and play, or is it going to be marked up, or what?
If you look at most of our playgrounds at our elementary schools, they have like the 4 square games, things that are marked out on there. So, and they're different color painting than the marks for the parking.
Okay, so I mean, the two won't be confused between the
No.
two. That's what I was
No,
worried about.
we have that on some of our parking lots now that are also hard surface for playgrounds.
Okay, and then the other area was the impact of, like from the DNR, as far as, we've got environmental concerns here. Is this going to be a problem, or are we working with them, or what's going on?
Brian can probably answer that better than anyone else. So it's really the issue with the road more than it is with the school.
Yes. And yes, we're working with them. on that. We've already met with the DNR once. We have some hurdles we got to jump through, but we are working with them.
Okay,
And
but
the
this is
school-
a feasible plan.
And the school is actually on the highest point of the.
Right, we're not located in any wetlands. It's just the road where it's an issue.
Okay,
Good?
yeah.
Alderman Bekavich?
Dr. Burmeister, proposed bus pickup and drop-off points, would it be on the south side of the building?
The bus drop-off and pickup will be on the north side of the building.
Yeah, and then-
And so we're separating the car traffic from the bus
Okay,
traffic.
so then if you're dropping your child off or visiting, you'd go to the south side?
Right.
Okay.
Commissioner Chandler?
And do we have any information about the materials, the material colors? Because what you showed up here looks a little bit different in our packet.
We haven't chosen any colors yet. We haven't chosen the colors yet.
Okay,
So-
of the brick or, okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, as called out on the plans, it's just 2 different shades of brown.
Yeah.
So we're approving 2 different shades of brown today? Because I'm unclear of what that means.
Well, as the information that we were provided, these are the colors.
Right. I mean, we haven't picked out the exact colors. Are we going with the brown scheme? Yes. But I mean, we haven't gotten down to picking the exact thing yet.
Thank you.
Commissioner Seifert.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned about the wetlands on the east side, if you bring that back up. This area right in here, you know, I'm looking at the 100-year flood and so forth. Would we have a problem being so close to the wetlands there?
The
Are
wa-
we high enough?
If I can just interject, the wetlands and the floodplain are not located in the same area. The floodplain line is actually kind of diagonal. Oh, sorry.
Okay,
So
we're down here.
it's actually
Yeah.
coming down here.
Yeah.
That's the floodway and floodplain. The wetlands around it are not floodplain.
Okay. And then the road coming in here, is that in line with 20th Street south of it?
It will align with it, yes.
It will be in line with it. And-
Significant discussions occurred around that linear approach. Go ahead.
Oh, and then there's a tree line along here, I think. I'm not sure if that's on your property or not. That's not yours? Right
No.
along the east side, there's a
We,
bunch of trees?
we have planned for quite a bit of trees for screening, and the fencing that Carrie had mentioned is on higher ground, and then the stormwater detention, that's a pretty steep downhill there, so it will appear to be much higher than it is. But yes, we're planning on having some vegetation to cover that up.
Brad, you're talking about the existing tree line that's right here?
Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
tree line, if you
Yeah.
look right along on the east side, that looks,
Yeah, I think that was a buffer for the house
Right.
that's on this side, but it's probably going, those trees are probably going to have to be removed to construct the road, but
they're
that
part of the
house is
road.
also going to be moved.
okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to give the house some protection.
The house is,
The house is coming down, so,
Yeah, the house is gone.
yeah.
will be gone. Done?
That's it.
Commissioner Carell.
Just to Commissioner Chandler's question or procedural, I don't really care which color brown, but does that come back to us, or is that, I mean, normally,
It's up to the Plan Commission if you want it to come back to you or if you want the plans to be submitted to the Department of Community Development.
okay, I'm good with that. Thanks.
I'm fine with that. Commissioner Chandler.
Can you provide information on safety measures within the school for the children?
What's that got to do with this?
Related to what?
Security?
As far as the site and
Okay.
building plan?
Yes.
We have the secure entrances that we have at all of our buildings now.
And what does that entail?
When they walk into the front door, they aren't able to, they have to get buzzed in to get in through the first set of doors, and then they are directed specifically into the office. They are not allowed to go through the second set of doors. So they have to go in through the office, check in, do all of that. And so it's the same thing that we have in our other schools.
Okay, and so there's just one way in and one way out for visitors?
Correct. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Any other questions or comments? Motion on 4D.
Kakavich will make a motion that the Plan Commission approve the site and building plans submitted by Sarah Burmeister, Oak Creek Franklin Joint School District for the property at 2200 West Drexel Avenue with the following conditions. One, that all technical corrections, zoning district, play area, surface material, scale, etc., are made to the plans and resubmitted to the Department of Community Development for review and approval prior to the issuance of building permits. Two, that all building and fire codes are met. Three, that details for the materials, dimensions, color, and gates to be used for the dumpster enclosure are submitted to the Department of Community Development prior to the issuance of building permits. Four, that updated landscape plans are submitted for review and approval by the Director of Community Development prior to the issuance of building permits. Five, that all mechanical equipment is screened from view. Six, that the final lighting plans indicating luminaire type, pole type, color, and height are submitted for final approval by the Department of Community Development upon written recommendation of the electrical inspector prior to the issuance of building permits. Seven, that all water and sewer utility connections are coordinated with the Oak Creek Water and Sewer Utility. And four, that the stormwater and grading plans are submitted for final approval by the engineering department prior to the issuance of building permits.
I just have one item to include if possible. If we can also, for number, is that 3? Not only for the dumpster, but for the school as well. The materials.
I think that's,
Details for the colors, materials.
It's only
For the
for the
colors,
for the
gates,
Is that only for the dumpster, Kerry?
dumpster enclosure, and building? How's that for an amendment?
So that, whoa,
Well, they talked about the colors.
So
and
the
you said
colors
it
of the
could
buildings would come
here or
back
Go
to-
to the community development.
it would come to community development for final approval.
Yeah.
We can add the building as well.
That's a good
Okay.
point.
Okay. Richard Dickman seconds.
Dickman seconds, roll call.
Dickman, aye.
Johnston, aye.
Grillo, aye.
Kavich, aye.
Sweetie, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Corral, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Good luck. Thank you very much. You're welcome. Item 4E is a certified survey map submitted by Jamie and Sean Cook, dividing the property at 10751 South Nicholson Road, tax key number as listed. Carrie?
The proposal is to split the existing outlot into one building lot and one outlot. Both lots will be of conforming size following the division. Lot 1 will be 18,798 square feet, and outlot 1 will be 93,240 square feet, or about 2.14 acres. There are easements that are depicted on the north and west property lines of the proposed Lot 1, as well as on multiple sides of the proposed outlot 1. There were comments that were received from the water and sewer utility. We recommend that the applicants work closely with the utility to address those concerns and update the CSM with any easements that may be required for water and sewer service for Lot 1, which will be developed with a single-family home. The staff recommendation is that the Plan Commission recommends to the Common Council that the certified survey map submitted by Jamie and Sean Cook for the property at 10751 Nicholson Road be approved with the condition that all technical corrections are made prior to recording. Mr. Mayor.
All right, any questions or comments on 4E related to the certified survey map and the splitting of the property?
I have a question.
Commissioner Chandler pressed her button twice, so you must have 2 questions, or you're really enthusiastic.
I just have a question for the applicant. And the question is, why the change? Why are you looking to split this property?
We don't own the land, we'd be purchasing, but we're gonna be building a residential home on that land.
Simple.
Thank you.
A new home in Oak Creek.
Correct.
Love it. Any other questions?
Just very quickly, 80-foot frontage, that's wide enough for the home?
Yes.
You're okay with that, for a size home going on there? On a corner? Is that a corner lot? No?
No, it's
No,
not a corner lot.
It's not. Okay, thank you.
Is that gray-haired guy that just got up, is he digging the hole for that house?
Of course he is.
Okay. Just want to be clear on that. You have a question?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
My question is, I didn't see this until now and stuff with the capping of these other
Name,
You have your name.
mains.
name.
Sir,
Okay,
can you
so
state your name and address for the record?
Kerry Schmidt, address is 10720 South Nicholson Road,
Thank you.
Oak Creek. And anyways, what do the mains have to do with anything with this lot? When this lot has to have the lateral brought in from the main? Because what's gonna happen is someday in the future, maybe 20 years, they're gonna divide the rest of this up into individual lots, which need these sewer laterals. But this lot doesn't have one. So we have to go to the main to get this.
That's something that should be coordinated with the utility, as that comment came directly from them. So that's really a question for that they should be
Right.
answering.
So if this gets passed, it only gets passed with this.
What we're
Stipulation.
recommending is that you work with the utility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
All
not
right.
a condition that you have to do exactly what's said, because we understand that's coordination.
Okay,
It's a further discussion.
all right, thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Not even take place.
Commissioner Dickman? And then you can go up, sir.
I just want to make sure that the comments, about working with the utility, that would fall under technical corrections?
Yeah.
Well, it's a utility requirement whether we say it or not.
Oh, okay.
So-
Okay.
And name and address for the record?
Mike Koblowitz, 10730 South Richard Road. I guess I'm looking for where they're planning on building. Is that the one right off of Nicholson to
Lot 1.
Lot 1?
It's off of Elm Road.
That's on Nicholson Road. Okay, where I'm at now on the backside there, we are a lot higher with our houses that are in there. So when it comes down now, we got an easement. I don't know what the easement is. We got that hill on the back there to where they want to build. So what is the actual easement on that then?
Peter Carey
Brian?
or Brian?
I think it's a drainage and utility easement.
Right.
So, I'm sorry, I'm not
I
following.
guess what I'm looking for is, okay, I'm on the one side. I know
Right.
they're planning on building closer to Nicholson, which would basically be behind me towards Nicholson there. And what happens is, we get our 10-year rains, you need a canoe in there sometimes, because it gets pretty deep. Now, are they gonna raise all that up to bring it level with the rest of the houses that are in there?
I see what you're saying.
The applicant's nodding yes. If you speak, you gotta come up.
Gary Schmidt again. What ends up happening is a grading plan has to be submitted. So the drainage can't be pushed to him, but the drainage does have to go someplace. It's gonna be addressed with the grading plan. So the height of it is probably lower than what he's at, but that lot would definitely be filled 3 to 4 feet.
Oh, yeah, because I can see
Yeah.
where the road is and
Yeah.
where we are. It's gonna probably have to be raised up, because I believe them were all caracombs where I'm at
Correct.
now. And that was all leveled and
Right.
brought up higher.
But
So
there's,
we got pretty good
there
drop.
must be, there is a, a grading plan that had to be submitted for the ones that were there, and that's gonna have to be kept. They can't be changed on your
Oh, no.
lot lines,
Right, right,
you
right.
know?
Right,
So-
I understand that.
Okay.
And for the easement for the.
Can you just
utilities-
move to the mic?
For the easement for the utilities, what is that then per, off the lot lines? Is that 5 feet, 10 feet, 20 feet, or what is that?
Well, right now, it's showing that it's a 6 foot on lot 1 and another 6 feet on the lot to the north, and then there's 6 feet at the rear, and actually it's 12 feet. It's split between the two lots at the rear, so right here, this is a 12-foot wide easement, 6 feet on each.
Right.
And I think there's 6 feet along the north property line here for an easement as well,
That would be off of, that's Nicholson where you're looking at right there then, correct?
but it's east-west.
Okay, okay. All right. That's what I wanted to find out then. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Commissioner Johnston?
Carrie, does the existing shed create any zoning issues for the remaining outlot?
I checked into that. That shed's been there for a very, very long time.
Does that satisfy you?
Yep.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Motion?
Corral moves that the commission recommends the common council that the certified survey map submitted by Jamie and Sean Cook for the property at 10751 Nicholson Road be approved with the condition that all technical corrections are made prior to recording.
Seifert seconds.
Roll call?
Dickman, aye.
Johnston, aye.
Grillo, aye.
Gavich, aye.
Speedy, aye.
Guzekowski, aye. Corral, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Good luck on your new home. Good to see you, Carrie. All right, last item of the night, zoning text amendments. Review a proposed amendment to section 17.0706E of the zoning ordinance to allow pole signs in the M1 manufacturing district submitted by Larry Hazy, JX Enterprises, JX Peterbilt. Applicant is here. Pete?
Testing, all right, we're on. Okay, the mayor did explain what the recommendation is for amending the section of code. Give you a little background, back in 1999, pole signs were permitted in all zoning districts. They were allowed to be 40 feet tall. The requirement was they had to have a 12-foot clearance from the bottom of the sign to the ground, and they were allowed to be 400 square feet in area. A little different. Since then, we now restrict the height of pole signs to 25 feet. We eliminated the 12-foot clearance from the bottom of the sign, and we reduced the maximum size to 100 square feet. The history behind that change was, as part of the comprehensive planning process, a vision, a character of the community was created, policies were developed to improve the character of the community. And as a result, the pole signs were minimized and ground signs were encouraged to be installed throughout the districts. One of the things they did as well was they restricted pole signs to only the B4 Highway Business District, reducing, the various districts which could have one. Staff believes that adding pole signs as a permitted use in the M1 will not be a benefit to the city as a whole. it may be beneficial for the applicant who is requesting the change, but city has to look at the whole city impact to changing the code. Because what will happen as a result of this amendment is going to go citywide. And we do have quite a bit of manufacturing throughout the city. We have South Branch that goes up and down the interstate. And one of the things that, one of the policies that were established with the city was to reduce clutter and confusion when it comes to signs. When we do sign appeals, one of the criteria is always to be a benefit to the neighborhood, not to be confusing or add clutter to the visual, the view shed of the community, especially our major thoroughfares. Therefore, staff recommends that not to recommend amending section 170706 sub E, allowing pole signs in M1 manufacturing district.
Okay, applicant, you have something to say?
Marty Westberg on behalf of Badger Lighting and Signs, P.O. Box 510451, New Berlin, Wisconsin. In addressing comments made by the Plan Commission, the first was the picture of all the signs up by Oshkosh.
Yes.
Yeah, but that's not really a equal comparison, I feel. That's with a frontage road and no tree line between the highway, as 94 does have that, so there is a buffer there. One of the other things about the B4 Highway Business District, Peterbilt's building is actually closer to the highway than a lot of the businesses in the B4 district, just to the north of them. And unfortunately for them, the boundary for the M1 B4 district in their area happens to be literally the Oak Creek that flows between them and Love's Truck Stop. And then one other concern they had was the north side of Drexel Avenue. Well, we're only referring to something on the 94 corridor, not any of the inland arterial roads for Oak Creek. One of the other things I mentioned in my letter addressing this was we'd want this to only impact properties that had a common border with the B4 properties, and we could even narrow that down further to only B4 properties that are on the 94 corridor. We're not looking to do this citywide. We're only looking to do this on the 94 corridor. He also addressed the character of the community, but also it says that the legal non-conforming signs could be redone based on Plan Commission approval. So that's kind of a conflicting message where, no, you can't do this, but the other ones, well, maybe if we decide they can. And then lastly, it would be a benefit because the semis traveling 94 would see this Peterbilt sign and know where to go rather than getting off and hoping they're going the right direction.
Commissioner Correll.
I guess my initial question is, could they, I mean, this is a Peterbilt issue. Obviously, it doesn't work citywide. Can we not have a variance in the M1 district? I mean, shouldn't we just be looking at this property, or is that not an option, Pete?
This,
I know
if you recall earlier, we had the sign appeal. Once it got, the variance got denied, we talked to the applicant, and we talked about what other avenues could they go. And it turned out, after being advised by council, that really that should never have happened, that they, since it's not permitted, it's kind of, we don't ask for variances to things that we don't allow to suddenly allow them for one time only. So staff directed the applicant to go through the zoning text amendment. And basically what would happen is we're amending the code to be specific to only allow M1 along the freeway. Would be very much picking and choosing who gets signs, who doesn't. So if there's going to be an amendment, it should be for the zoning district and not for necessarily zoning districts abutting a freeway. Because then now you're saying if you are, you got your first class M1 versus your second class M1. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get it, and I don't see how we do that. Also, looking at this property, I don't see where I know we, as a group, voted against it, but I don't see how this alternative works.
It's up to the Plan Commission and ultimately the Common Council to decide that maybe back in 1999, restricting pole signs to B4 district was overreaching and maybe we should readdress it. Staff feels that there's nothing that really benefits the manufacturing districts as a whole. I can tell you in the close to 9 years I've been here, I've never had a manufacturing business want a pole sign.
I agree with you, Pete. That's why, I mean, this specific. So when did we deny this variance?
Just
Couple months ago?
And I mean,
was it this year or was it the December of 2014?
Thinking I
I think it was
missed that.
December of
Oh, you missed that
2014
meeting?
that
I'm guessing I missed that one.
I thought it was all about the height of the sign. Maybe I'm,
Well, that was the concern was the height because they wanted 80 foot to basically match Love's to get above the tree line. And when we were discussing after the variance was denied based on, too tall, too large, when the applicant asked, well, okay, can I come back and, basically restate my case, maybe lower the sign and whatnot, that wasn't a significant change. And then, just by dropping the height 80 feet to 40 feet, you're still asking for a 300 square foot pole sign that still exists, not even that, you're asking for a pole sign that does not even permitted in the district. And how do you ask for a variance to something that we prohibit?
all right, so what problem are we trying to fix here?
Well, to begin with, the direction given to us by the Plan Commission, I guess, was to amend the text and then possibly seek a variance afterwards for height. So we're just kind of.
I mean, more of the business-related, what is the business-related problem that relates to Peterbilt? You can come on up and,
That's highway traffic business, and they want that highway visibility.
Cindy
Wait,
Campbell, I'm
Sorry. You said highway business traffic?
No,
not highway
No, go, well, we'll hear.
she's got the mic. Go ahead.
Cindy Campbell. I'm the general manager at that facility for 1880 Ridgeway Drive. And highway visibility for a dealership environment is critical for us in order to grow in the environment of Oak Creek. And JX Enterprises has been a very, very contributing part of the communities and the communities that we're in. And we chose Oak Creek because of its proximity, because of the locations and strategically where Peterbilt. Peterbilt is the class of the class. Anybody who knows Peterbilt, I mean, our sign is not going to be, obtrusive or offensive in any way. I mean, the idea is we project class, and right now that property, it's hard to invest. I mean, what we want to do is we want to grow the business to enable us to invest in that property and beautify it. I mean, we have 6 acres that we have to be able to make a profit in order to reinvest in the Oak Creek community, which is what we really want to do. We don't want people driving by because they can't see us, because you can. As soon as there's growth in the tree line, you don't even know we're here. And, we want to invest, and I'm also the general manager of the Wadsworth, right on the state line, the big one there. And, JX Enterprises is all about investing. I'm right now going through about $1 million remodel with all local contractors and local community stuff to beautify the property, not only for the community, but for the customer experience, contributing back, growing the business, more tax dollars in the local communities. So right now, there's just no visibility once the trees leaf out, even in Wisconsin when we have, 7 months of winter. But
Is there any opportunity
important.
to partner with one of the current existing signs that are on the freeway to put their information on one of those signs?
We'd be in violation of off-premise sign ordinance. That sign has to be on premise in order for it to be permitted. And I'd just like to rebut the sign representative's comment about the Oshkosh. You can put 20-foot trees in front of all of those businesses there, and you're still going to get all of those signs along because all of them are going to go above the tree line. So he said, well, this is not comparable. I can fill in the bottom 40 feet with trees, and you're still going to see that dotted along the horizon. There are a lot of communities that have taken great strides into limit billboards and other advertisements, so their view sheds down the highway as you enter Oak Creek from the south doesn't become dots all along the interstate. So staff feels that this is one business, but once one gets their door in, they're going to be saying, hey, why is it just if the proposal was just to even be specific along the I-94 corridor, how far away from the I-94 corridor do you have to be before you're out of sight of the corridor? Is it 500 feet, 1,000 feet, 2,500 feet? Where is that line drawn? And is it where Peterbilt is? So you're 500 feet away, you're inside, and then the person down the street says, wait. You could, if I build a 100-foot sign, you can see me from the freeway. I'm still in the corridor. And we go down a slippery slope of starting to look further and further down the landscape, you start to see more and more pole signs, and they all have to be above the trees, because it doesn't help to have a 25-foot pole sign in the corridor if we have trees in the way. So what's going to happen, I can play this out 2 steps down. Let's play out the scenario where we make a recommendation for approval for a pole sign. Well, 25 feet, remember the bucket truck that he had in the illustration that barely showed anything? Next step is going to be, I'm going to ask for a variance now to make it just above the tree line. Then the next business down is going to say, I want to be a little bit taller than Peterbilt so that way they can see me down this view shed. And I know it sounds like the sky is falling predicament. It's somewhat intended to be that way, but that's where we head down when we make an amendment like this that's affected citywide.
Commissioner Corral.
Pete, you make a valid point, and this amendment to me doesn't make any sense at all. We'd be opening up a lot of plans. I just, knowing that property, and I've, I was back in South Branch for a lot of years, it's just I don't know that I'd want to be there if I was Peterbilt. Without that signage, when you got Loves and everyone else's, it just, wish there was somewhere you could look at that. I don't know that there's as many businesses in a similar situation that we'd be looking at, Pete. That would probably be the only thing I disagree with. I just got a little heartburn over that property. It's been there that really, all the time I was back there, wondered why are they there? You don't have signage.
Well, and we really want to invest in that property, but it's tough to do that if we can't grow the business. So, I mean, we really want to develop that. I mean, it's a nice chunk of land, you know, I mean, and it is nice and close to the freeway for a transportation-based, you know, company like, or dealership like that is. And we certainly don't intend, you know, if there's any way we can do this without doing it citywide. I understand I totally understand your thoughts on and respect your opinions on that. And so we wouldn't necessarily, you know, but if there's a way to do it where it is just the I-94 corridor, you know, abutted, I mean, we're literally right next to the Love's truck stop. I mean, we're so close. If there's a way to be just a little flexible, we would certainly love to stay in Oak Creek forever.
Commissioner Chandler.
So what I'm hearing, the challenge is advertising. So you put in a request to have a pole sign and it was denied, and then changes were provided and that was also denied? Or no changes have been provided?
That's why we're here.
No. When the applicant first came to look for a sign, the process staff recommended was going for a sign appeal. Plan Commission denied that appeal. Working with the applicant, thinking of what other avenues they could go, it was understood from legal counsel that really the sign appeal was really not the correct route that should have gone. That if they want to get a variance to heighten size, they need to first get a text amendment that even allows a pole sign in the M1 district. And that's why the applicant is here today, because they would like to get past that first step of, we need to be permitted to have a pole sign. Step 2 for the applicant will be getting a variance for the height and size. Now, is it going to be 80 feet? No. And I can't recall, what was your proposal, your second iteration with 40 feet?
It was going to be 50 feet, so we'd have a few feet above that tree line, so in 2 years' time that it's not obstructed by tree growth again.
Okay.
So that's how we got to where we are right now. And, you know, I shared with you staff's, you know, after reviewing it internally, our recommendation was not to make that amendment to allow pole signs in the M1 district and basically leave the sign code as is.
Okay, so can you show us the M1 district that's close to 94? Is it a huge area, a small area?
If you look up on the map, Carrie was nice enough to highlight in the hatched area, that is all the M1 districts throughout the city. So a good example would be north of Drexeltown Square, that's all M1. So you could start seeing some 25-foot pole signs up and down, and then asking for variances from the code to make them larger or taller or whatnot.
I would agree. I wouldn't want a pole sign in the middle of town either. I mean, I don't think that anybody here refutes that.
And right now, we have no definition of what the I-94 corridor all entails. I think there'd be applicants that, or not applicants, but property owners that are in South Branch, as well as in North Branch, that can be considerably far away, that would want a pole sign. And without having that definition of how far away from I-94 does one have to be in order to be included, could be pursued as arbitrary, and just, we're making up an imaginary line, and everybody inside that line is okay, and everyone else is outside that line is not okay. I think that's opening up legal concerns regarding the permitting of pole signs in the M1 district.
All right, let's move through some questions. Commissioner Dickman.
I just wanted to follow up on what Pete's comments originally was, that we get one sign, then somebody else says, oh, look we can go a little farther, a little bigger, a little higher than theirs, et cetera. And I compared it to this picture on Highway 41 because I drive that a lot, and I've been on that frontage road. And if you look at the picture too, every time I drove that, I got the feeling with all the signs they have that each one was trying to outdo the other one, and I just never liked the look of that, especially having been on when we developed our sign ordinance. Highway 41 just rubbed me the wrong way up there. Okay.
Well, again, Marty from Badger Lighting and Signs, I understand that concern, but that is a rather heavy concentration of businesses right next to each other.
Yeah, it is.
Where we don't really have that at the Peterbilt location.
No, it's a 6-acre plot.
That's a good point, yeah.
But this is not just Peterbilt. This
yeah, I
is,
agree with you.
we're again looking citywide M1, and unless the Plan Commission wants to recommend an arbitrary distance from the interstate, which I would not recommend, would be something that would limit it. But I think you'll find other businesses in the M1 district crying foul that this body came up with whatever distance from the freeway to consider permitted and not permitted.
Alderman Guzikowski.
Well, since this is in my district, number one, it's got to be almost a year ago, just less than a year maybe, when they were here for the original sign request. Is that correct?
December,
December.
so 4 months ago.
All right, sorry. Seems like
No problem.
Time flies.
So since, and I agree, the pole signs it's a slippery slope. But what can we do? What can we do to help them out with a sign here? And I know monument sign's not going to cut it for people to see from the freeway, but what can we do to make it work for them?
Is this something that needs to go, at this point, that they can look at anything? I mean, what's proposed to us right now, Pete, I agree, does not work, this amendment change. Is there something, Mayor, that we send this back and let them try and look at defining that exception to give us something to even consider? Because at this point, it's really not an option, unfortunately, the way it's being
The way
proposed.
it's written.
I think what we would request is if the Plan Commission is not looking toward a yes vote on this, that we, staff, have some time to come up with some alternatives, because at this point, we don't see any within the code, but that doesn't mean that there isn't something.
Okay, I totally agree with what Commissioner Kraus said, and I think we should do that. So I have two people, Alderman Bekavich and Commissioner Johnston. Do you have something to add beyond that?
I'm just gonna say, the M1 deal citywide is dead. I mean, let's quit beating a dead horse. If we allow it here, we could allow it at the Quick Trip. We definitely don't want that. Little bit of a different animal here. It's in a truck service area, I'll say. We need to bring these people back and help them out in some way, shape, or form. That's my suggestion.
All right, so, go ahead.
It's going to sound like a dumb idea, but what about rezoning their property into B4? Is that an option?
Rezoning what?
Truck engine repair is only permitted in our M1 district.
If you start changing the rules for one business in zoning and signs, you get into a whole...
Right, and that's the, the concern, even going back and holding this item and discussing alternatives, outside of, we talked about just arbitrarily creating this corridor, and to allow it, I don't think that's really resolving anything.
I don't know if I'd so much call it a corridor. I'd find out with a height that might be acceptable to live with. I mean, they asked for 50 last time. We weren't good with it. Well, let me ask you this. How high is the Applebee's sign?
The Applebee's is a legal non-conforming sign. So if that Applebee's were to fall, it would be underneath under new ones. So a lot of the same with even, the Quick Trip, which is in our B4. It used to be the old Hardee's and old, a lot of those signs are legal non-conforming, that if they got destroyed, they would have to conform to the new sign code. They can only go 25 feet tall. You know, I mentioned about the possibility of coming before the Plan Commission. That's only if, say they wanted to expand the size, making it more non-conforming than it was, then they have to come to Plan Commission. Otherwise, they have to just basically work within the confines of the existing pole sign.
Yeah.
You know, I understand wanting to help the applicant. That's why we're even here, because we are looking for alternatives to what could be
Well,
done.
that being said, you're looking for alternatives, but your suggestion, your recommendation is to deny, so that's not really looking for an alternative. That's,
Well, after discussion and looking internally, trying to figure out what options there are, holding this is just, at this point, I mean, definitely, if you tell staff to look at it, we will.
well,
We have
holding
looked
it
at
encourages
for weeks.
discussion. I don't know that there ever is going to be a point where we're coming to some reasonable solution, given where they're at.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. If there was a billboard available on the interstate, would you guys be open to renting space on it, directing them to your place right on the interstate as an electronic board? If that would become available, because there are some billboards along 94 within the city limits. Their caucus.
Yeah, and we've looked into even on the south property that the dealership that I run down in on the state line, and the cost of renting a billboard over time gets quite cost prohibitive. Yeah.
I know. I just
Yeah,
thought
and I appreciate your creativity without a doubt, for sure.
I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. Call it creative.
Brian, what do you have to add?
I just think that this addition to the overall city M1 zoning, I think everybody agrees that that's dead. That's the item that we have in front of us tonight. This is a matter for legal opinion and to come up with something. I don't think that we can do spot zoning for one lot for that site. If we're able to change the zoning, but then they don't fall into the manufacturing use for the truck repairs.
Peter, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
What is the zoning, just because I'm not familiar with the zoning yet, but what is the zoning north of Ryan Road, like across from the Pilot, where the Kenworth and the Freightliner dealerships are?
That is in a PUD, and that has special uses for it. I cannot recall what the exact zoning is at this
That's
point.
right in the same area.
And it's all in the
we
South
are. It's
Branch,
all right
and,
there.
that's all.
Yeah.
Because I know the Pilot is in the B4 PUD.
Yeah.
I would have to double check to make sure what it is. That is, I don't have it off the top of my head, but I do know it's a PUD. So a lot of times there's special uses. The minimum, and I believe you are a straight M1 zoning.
That's what we currently are, I believe.
Yeah.
What's the current?
Based upon the business that was there before we moved in.
What's the size of your current building on your property?
On the 6 acres, I'm going to tell you it's, the existing brick and mortar, I'm going to tell you is probably currently 8,000.
Okay, so it's relatively smaller.
Yeah, and that's why we'd like to expand it. We have all this land that we
Yeah, I get that
developed.
part of it, but
Yeah.
you know, I don't want to tell you what to do. Alderman Bakavich.
Pete, when we changed it, you went through that whole history and we knocked it down to 25 feet whenever we did it. Why did we come up with 25 feet? Is that like a norm throughout other communities, or is that something we could look at and say maybe it's time to adjust that, not to 50, but citywide take it up to 35 or 40 or something?
That's always an option that, you know, the council or the commission can direct staff to look at and address and come back to the commission for review. The issue here is whether or not pole signs should be permitted in M1. I don't think it's the height so much. It's the idea that even if you look up and down Howell Avenue, you know, the Speedway across the street used to be a pole sign. They went to Monument. If you look, you know, there's a few that have, and these are commercial districts, which is a little bit of comparing apples to oranges because, you know, we have different uses. But there has been a trend, and the city has been making rules and regulations to encourage the height, the size of monument signs, to encourage that, reducing that clutter along the view shed. I mean, I think a good example I could probably bring up, which is not manufacturing, but is commercial, is 27th Street. South 27th Street, you look up and down a lot of the older sections there, you know, they had the pole signs, and now they're starting to be converted more to the monument signs. It just seems to be a less visual clutter down the road, and they're still getting signs, they're still doing it. I understand in this particular business, they need to get the visual, the visibility from the freeway. M1 district, is that an appropriate need to have 25-foot pole, any pole signs? Back in '99, it was decided that it was not, and staff agrees that what was decision back in '99 should be maintained.
All right, I guess my recommendation, after hearing everybody talk, is we got to take action on this one. We certainly need staff and you guys to figure where we can go.
I'd be more than willing to.
Yeah, I mean, I love your
help.
business. It's a good spot.
So do I.
It's a good spot for it.
Uniquely, so do I.
I wish it was closer to the freeway, but
Yeah.
it is where it is.
Correll moves that the commission not recommend amending section 170706E, allowing pole signs in the M1 manufacturing district as proposed.
Guzekowski will second.
And just, I would ask before we vote that we do have staff work with the applicants to make sure that we can at least try to work forward on this issue. And I'm sure that both parties will do that. All right, roll call.
Dickman, aye.
Johnston, aye.
Grillo, aye.
Kavich, aye.
Speedy, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Correll, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
All right, have a good night, folks.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Motion to adjourn?
Carrillo moves to adjourn at 7:45.
Seifert seconds.
Seibert seconds, roll call.
Dickman, aye.
Johnston, aye.
Grillo, aye.
Kavich, aye.
Speedy, yes.
Guzekowski, aye.
Corell, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Thanks for watching. Have a great night.